Have you ever just stopped and wondered how a tiny newborn who can barely do anything turns into a little chatterbox in just a few years? I mean, it's one of the most amazing transformations in the entire natural world. So today, we're going to dive into that incredible journey of how a baby's brain actually learns to talk. All right, let's start with a really cool question. Think about it. There are thousands of languages out there, each with its own unique sounds. So, are babies born as a blank slate, or are they born with something way, way more powerful? And the answer, honestly, is just incredible. For the first 6 months of their lives, babies are what scientists call citizens of the world. What that means is they have this stunning ability to hear the differences between the sounds of all the world's languages. You can't do that. I can't do that. They are truly universal listeners. But here's the thing. That superpower, it doesn't last. So how does a baby go from being this universal citizen of the world to a specialist in just one or maybe two languages? How on earth do they crack the speech code?
Well, by the time they're getting ready to blow out that first birthday candle, that universal ability, it's pretty much gone. Their brains have gone through this massive transformation, becoming specialists in the specific sounds they hear every single day. They have gone from universalist to specialist.
And we can actually see this happen with hard data. Check this out. In one famous study, researchers tested American and Japanese infants on their ability to tell the difference between R and L sounds. Now, that's a key difference in English, but not so much in Japanese. At 6 to 8 months old, their performance is exactly the same. They're both equally good at it.
But fast forward just 2 months, the change is absolutely stunning. The American babies actually got better at telling the sounds apart. But the Japanese babies, their performance completely plummeted. Their brains were already rewiring themselves, pruning away the ability to hear a distinction that just wasn't important for the language they were learning. And remember, this is all happening before they can even say their first real word. So the big question is, what's the mechanism here? What is actually going on inside that little brain that makes this incredible change happen so fast?
Well, a huge part of the answer is something called statistical learning. You see, the infant brain is like a super powerful little computer. It's constantly, without any conscious effort, taking statistics on the language it hears. It's tracking which sounds pop up most often and in what patterns, basically figuring out the building blocks of its native tongue.
And all of this intense learning happens during a very special time called the critical period. This is this window, right, where the brain's ability to change and adapt, its plasticity, is at an all-time high. It's exactly why little kids can pick up a language so effortlessly, while adults can struggle for years and still have an accent. The brain is literally built for it at that age.
But, it turns out that this statistical learning thing, it isn't the whole story. There was a critical piece of the puzzle still missing, and finding it revealed this amazing secret about the connection between language and our social brain.
So how did they figure this out? With a really clever experiment. Researchers took a group of 9-month-old American babies who had only ever heard English. They exposed them to Mandarin in 12 sessions. One group got to play with a real, live tutor. The other 2 groups got the exact same material, but one watched it on a TV and the other just listened to an audio recording.
The results were mind-blowing. The babies who played with the real person, they learned the Mandarin sounds incredibly well. They were just as good as babies who'd been hearing Mandarin their whole lives in Taiwan. And the babies who watched the TV or listened to the audio, they learned absolutely nothing. Nada. Zero. I mean, just look at the chart. The results could not be more clear. The live tutor group's performance shoots way up, while the TV, audio, and control groups are just flatlined at the bottom. This was definitive proof. It wasn't just about hearing the sounds. Something else, something social, was absolutely necessary. And this led to a really powerful idea called the social gating hypothesis. The theory is that our social brain acts like a gatekeeper. It has to be opened up by a live, back-and-forth social interaction before the statistical learning parts of the brain really kick into high gear. The bottom line is, it takes another human being to unlock that learning potential. So, this incredibly intense period of social and statistical learning has a profound, lasting effect. We're not just talking about an experience, we're talking about a process that is physically wiring the brain for a lifetime of language. And just to give you an idea of the scale of what's happening, look at this number. By the time a child is 3 years old, their brain has 3 times the number of synaptic connections as an adult's brain. It is this dense, super-connected learning machine.
The brain is literally building itself based on these early experiences. Now, this wiring process can have some pretty amazing upsides. For example, kids who grow up learning 2 languages often show some really cool cognitive advantages. Research shows they can be better at things like controlling their attention, tuning out distractions, and switching between different tasks. It's like a real workout for the brain that pays off.
But all of this amazing brain wiring, whether it's for 1 language or 2, it all depends on one absolutely critical sense: hearing. If that sound input is compromised during that critical period, the brain's ability to build its language foundation can be seriously damaged. And according to the American Speech Language Hearing Association, or ASHA, the stakes here are incredibly high.
It's really like a devastating domino effect. When hearing loss isn't identified, it can lead to delays in speech. That, in turn, can cause learning problems in school. Those communication struggles can then lead to social isolation and, down the line, can even affect a person's future career. It just shows how absolutely foundational that early listening environment really is.
So, after all this incredible science, what's the big takeaway here? It really all comes back to a simple but really profound truth about what a developing brain needs most.
And that's why this quote from ASA is so important. Timing is everything. The earlier a hearing problem is caught and dealt with, the less serious the long-term impact will be. Getting that intervention in early can give the brain the raw data it needs during that all-important critical period.
So here's the bottom line. The infant brain isn't learning from some educational app or a set of flashcards. It learns from us. It learns from being talked to and sung to and read to. That direct human connection, that's the richest data set you could ever hope to give a developing mind.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. We've seen that the brain is fundamentally wired for social learning, not for passively watching a screen. So, in this world we live in, full of screens, what does it really mean to provide the kind of listening environment that builds a brilliant brain?